Hello, everyone. Today I'm here with Patricia America from American Homes, Coldwell Banker American Homes.
Yes.
And there was something that really appealed to me about your tagline, and that is the purpose-driven realtor. So can you share with our audience today what that means to you and what you'd like them to know about that?
Okay, well, the purpose-driven realtor, at the end of the day, we are going to complete a transaction, and that is either selling or buying a home.
Okay.
But for me, the most important part of the transaction is really what happens in between, from the 30 to 90 days and beyond the closing table.
Right.
And that's creating strong relationships with my clients and creating happy clients.
So you mentioned 30 to 90 days. So there's
Right.
this time frame that it takes to buy a home. It's not just you go out and look at homes, you buy one and it's easy peasy, if you will.
Right.
There's this process that happens along the way, and so you're there with them, walking them through every step of the way.
Absolutely.
So tell me, what does that look like in terms of communication with somebody? What would they expect from you during that process?
Well, I realized that as a purpose-driven realtor, that it's really not just about the transaction.
Right.
It's really about the person that's coming to the table. And that person's coming to the table with their whole life sometimes.
Sure.
And when you think about 30 to 90 days of spending time with someone, that's a long period of time, and a lot of life can happen in between.
Right.
So sometimes every client is different, right? So sometimes you can get calls in the middle of the night, and I will pick up the phone all the time. I am there. I really do believe in effective communication.
Okay.
And that really means that if my client calls me, I am there. If they ask me questions, I have the answers, and if I don't have the answers, I will find the answer.
Sure.
But most of the time, I'm very communicative, so I'm
Right.
pretty proactive anyway, but I'm there. And the holistic person sometimes is not just about the transaction, right? Sometimes it's about what's happening in their lives.
Absolutely.
And you really have to address those issues even before you can sometimes get to the purpose of why they're there.
I love that.
Yeah, so for me, it's not just transactional, it's transformational.
Okay.
And that really means that we are looking at the person, we're building relationships.
That's awesome. So they're not just buying a home, they're buying a life for themselves, right? This
Absolutely.
is where they're going to raise their families possibly, or spend the next however many years of their lives in this new environment.
Right.
So I think that's extremely important. And you kind of bring this up where, this is impacting somebody's life in a very tremendous way when they're purchasing a home or even selling a home for that
Right.
matter. So, knowing that so much has happened in the past year, people's lives have changed, and, we're in this market now, which is absolutely insane.
Yes, it is.
I'm sure there are buyers as well as sellers out there that would love to know from you, what kind of advice would you have, say, for a buyer in this market or a seller in this market? So if you can share maybe what would be helpful for a buyer coming into, this market, buying a home, working with you, what could they expect from you and what can they expect from the market?
Okay. Well, for both seller and buyer, you first have to have a great real estate agent. Okay,
Perfect.
so that's
Right.
number one.
Right.
Okay, so let's start with the seller first.
Okay.
So the seller, you have to have, really realistic expectations.
Right.
We know it's a seller's market, and there's not a lot of inventory out there, so a lot of sellers really do believe that they can put their house out there at any price, and they're going to get bites.
Right.
But
And that
sadly
doesn't
to
happen.
say,
Right.
exactly,
Right.
sadly to say, it doesn't happen. So when you have a great real estate agent, they're going to price your house at the current market value, right? So that you can get more looks and more offers.
Sure.
Okay, so that's where it starts. You would rather have 100 people fighting for you than 2 people. I always like it when it's like you're a woman and you're being courted. Well, if you're unapproachable, no one's going to come.
You're
right?
absolutely right.
That's
Sure.
the house that's priced too high.
Right.
But if you're just this really nice, kind person, you're going to get more people coming to
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And that's the house that's the current market value today.
Okay. So to your point, I think if you had a few offers, that's okay. That's not a bad thing.
Right.
But always better to put yourself in that position of power, if you will, and having multiple offers to
Right.
choose from, because then you can pick the best price, the best terms and conditions, knowing that, in most cases people are selling and they're probably buying something else, or they're moving out of state, wherever they may be going.
Right.
Your life is impacted by this, so it's important to know
Absolutely.
that, every offer comes with it a different scenario.
Absolutely. So you want to really create momentum, right?
Right.
For yourself, and that's when you're going to price it well.
Right.
And that's when you get the bidding wars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it.
And with that, that's when the emotions of the sellers come into play, right?
You
Because
mean, you mean sellers have emotions?
they have emotions. Okay, so everyone's like wants to date you, right?
Right.
So everyone wants to date the seller.
That's funny.
So the seller is now like, I'm loving all these offers. It's over and above what they
Sure.
could even think of when it comes to the prices. So here we are, and you have these great emotions of they want me.
Right.
But now you're packing, you've accepted this offer, and now you get, oh my God, I'm leaving my house.
Seller's remorse.
Exactly. Or even the separation anxiety that
Sure.
comes along with that. And that's where, when I talk about being the purpose-driven realtor, it's really acknowledging that we are selling a house, but this seller has emotions.
Right.
And they're thinking about all of the memories that they spent there, the
You're absolutely
families
right.
that they raised. This may have been their first home. They scraped up all the money to buy
Sure.
it. And so they start crying. I have a lot of clients that will just cry, and you have to be there for them.
Wow.
And that's totally natural. I will acknowledge that that is a very normal thing.
Right.
However, it's about mindset, right? Let's change our mindset. So you had these great memories in this house, but now there's going to be another family that has great memories.
And you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know that you're able to offer that to somebody else. And don't forget, you get to take your memories with you.
Absolutely.
They don't stay in the house.
No,
Right.
and then you create memories in your next house.
Right.
So now we're projecting, we're moving ahead, we're not getting stuck in the past. So just think about just creating more memories.
Right. Well, you sound like a lot more than just an agent who's going to come in, put a sign on the lawn, do an open house,
No,
negotiate some
yeah.
offers. You really do walk some people through this process,
Yes.
physically, but also emotionally. And I think, that's a really important part that you play, because this is a very emotional business. And you can very well get, stuck into making certain decisions that are emotional when maybe you kind of need, a different level of advice or level-headedness, if you will.
Yes.
Somebody guiding you through that. So that's awesome. So that's great information for sellers. Now, what about on the buy side?
Okay, so the buy side is the same as usual. You have to have a pre-approval.
And they're probably emotional too.
Right, and they're
Right.
emotional as well. So
Right.
when we start talking about the emotions of what's happening in today's market, beyond getting the pre-approval and all of those things, pack your patience. I just pack your patience.
Sure.
We have to, as real estate agents, we need to set the expectation. Because if you don't in this market, you're going to have buyers that will give up. They may not get an offer accepted and go, you know what, I put 10 offers in and nothing got accepted.
I'm just going to
And-
wait. I'm going to take a few
Yeah.
months off. And
I always tell them, your house is out there. You just have to set your emotions and expect that, okay, well, it's going to take a little bit of time to
Sure.
find it. And then we have some buyers sometimes, because they get disappointed, that they will now start to sabotage themselves. And how do they do that, right? Okay, it's just like, for instance, when you have a bad day and you go eat that big bowl of ice cream, you're
I
emotional
never do
eating.
that.
Me either, but but it's that buyer now that goes, I'm not going to get a house, so let me go buy a car.
Right.
Or
You're right.
let me go, and and that's how they sabotage themselves,
Yeah.
because now they have ruined their credit scores, and so we
Or
need
affected their ability to purchase a certain amount of house.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So we need to let our buyers know that you have to keep the status quo.
Right.
Okay? The same way that it was when you first got that pre-approval.
I think pack your patience is a perfect way to kind of think about that. Because you want to do all these things, you want to accomplish this, you want to get into your new home. It's really
Right.
exciting, and it should be exciting. And it will be exciting,
be,
but it
yeah.
is a little bit of a process, and it's important to have a level of patience throughout all of that.
Absolutely. And
That's
I've
awesome.
I've also seen buyers that have lost out on a home, and then the next home that they put an offer in, they got accepted, and it was so much better than the first home.
You're absolutely right.
So sometimes your best is not always your first.
Yeah, things do happen for a reason.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that quite a number of times as well in my career with different agents, and you are absolutely right. They're usually much happier with the one that they actually settled on,
Right.
or found themselves in at the end of the day,
Right,
than the one that they
absolutely.
lost, and that just becomes a distant memory for them.
Absolutely.
Once they move into that new home and they're
Yeah.
setting up their furniture and making it their own.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, Patricia, what would be the best way for somebody to contact you today?
So you can call me at 631-484-0275, or MissAmericaHomes.com is my website. I would love to talk with you.
That's awesome. So feel free to reach out to Patricia America from Coldwell Banker American Homes. Have a great day.